Have to be so careful travelling these roads to the job. You can see half of it's full of ice, half it isn't. We've got blind corners. Cars are just absolutely flying around these corners, and yeah, it is quite bad on these narrow, small country roads. But we're going to the next job. Hello and welcome back to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Yes, we are doing this golf, the one I diagnosed the other day, or the ABS issue. I have done this side, haven't filmed it. I'm going to film the far side. Now, we've changed everything because again, the back plate wasn't as bad as the far side, but it was still bad. There's my cock again. And we don't want it obviously to destroy the wheel bearing, etc. So, I just want to show you this because when you look at this disc, it doesn't look too bad. Even though when you look at it, you can see it's not braking properly, but still it looks quite good. When you turn it over, this is just completely gone into it. So yeah, when you do the pads in the disc, you do them on both sides. You don't necessarily have to do the wheel bearings both sides or the back plate, but again, if the wheel bearing has gone one side, how long is it going to be until it goes the other side? I mean, technically speaking, once one wheel bearing goes, you're supposed to change them all, but no one does. And then the back plate, we just did that because obviously the other back plate was bad and we don't want it to do more damage. So let's get to the far side and actually film it and see if I was right. It's weird how it goes. I haven't done a back plate in a couple of years, and within a week I've done two. That one's off a Toyota and then brakes off a Toyota, and this one's off a Golf. I've also filmed that one as well. But isn't it weird how everything seems to come together? Right, now we get to the sides causing all the problems. As you can see, this is completely rusty, just destroyed the disc. We're only braking on that. That's a failure. Not only that, this is broke, which is another T failure, and that has also caused to gone into the wheel bearing and took big chunks off the magnet pickup, which we saw the other day. So I'm going to have to change everything. I've done loads of videos on brakes and I've done a few videos on golf, so I'm not going to go through everything thingy, but we need to take the T30 off here first. Then we need to take 2 13mm bolts, and we can hold the 15mm nut, and that will allow us to take the 13mm bolt out. Very simple. Then what you can actually do is you can actually lever off the brake disc this way. You don't have to take the carrier off, because you have to be very careful taking the carrier off these. If memory serves, it's M14 torque, or sorry, an M14 spline, which is triple square in America, but you can destroy the threads. There is a special kit and I have it. You can destroy the threads and you can't get it back on without, you know, retapping it, putting helicals in. It's just a nightmare. So really try and avoid not to take that off if you can, because it's just going to cause you all sorts of problems. There is kits out there to repair it, but it's just, you don't really want to get into it. You can still take this off and put the new one on without taking off this. So we're going to show you that. So let me just take off the caliper and the what is it, the T30, and then I'll show you what I mean. And yes, that is pure ice. It's like -1.5 degrees outside, and yeah, the joys of being mobile. Right, a couple of little tricks you can do is you always want to take off this first. I always forget, but this time I haven't forgot, because it's just easier, because you can lock the disc, you can wedge shrink in here. Now we're not worried about the discs or the pads, so I can wedge shrink in there. I can put you know, vice grips or something on there to hold it. If you're not replacing the disc, obviously don't do that. And if this is hard to get out, all you got to do, heat can also help if you haven't got a blowtorch, but what you can do is get a hammer and just hit it and shock it. Hit it quite hard and actually shock that, and that will give you the best chance of it coming out. People say you're not supposed to hit them because you damage wheel bearings and stuff. No, you just don't, because the wheel hitting a pothole and just normal driving does more pressure than you're going to hit with a hammer. But we're replacing the wheel bearing anyway, so it really doesn't matter in our case. Now I don't know if this is going to be easy to take out or not. Trying to do this one-handed isn't exactly wise. There we go, that was actually, in that case, easy. So let me just take that off, and the caliper. Right, I've also done a video on that's actually being held by the handbrake cable. so it's not being, there's no pressure on here. I've also done a video on some of them on the Volkswagens. You have to take the carrier off, but I always take the wheel bearing off. Now I'll link that in the description. If I remember, if I don't, someone just put it in the, you can see, look, that just was not working. That was just kinked to the side. To take off the wheel bearing, and you don't have to take off the carrier, because again, you'd sooner do that than to take off this. And on the one that I showed, I think it was a Passat, I can't remember, you have to take off the carrier to take off the disc, unless you take off the wheel bearing at the same time. And believe me, if you try and take this off and you destroy them threads, you're gonna love me for saying just take off the wheel bearing, because it's so much easier and a lot less grief. The kit is quite expensive. If you don't have the kit, you have to buy a whole new arm for the back. It's very, very expensive, however you look at it. So just, yeah, look at that other video if you're worried, but never on these Volkswagens, the Golfs, the Passats, any of them really, never really take the carrier off. Just don't do it. It's just not worth the hassle. But now what I should be able to do, now the brakes are off, let's try and do this live. Most probably won't do it now because I've said it. There we go. Now look, what you can actually do is, see that? In this case, boom, there we go. And now we can really see just this. Now we could have an issue with trying to get this off, which isn't going to be nice. That one looks really bad too, and that one looks bad too. But you can now see, now you can really see what I mean. The wheel bearing going across here, this was flexing, look, and hitting the pickup of the wheel bearing. If you can see, let me get the camera in a bit better here maybe. There you go. Hitting the wheel bearing and causing it to take all the chunks off the wheel bearing, which obviously isn't a good thing. So yeah, the joys. Couple of things if you're doing this job. These are extremely tight, and I mean ridiculously tight. They're very tight and they've got a lot of Loctite on them. There is two different types of wheel bearings you need to be aware of if you're doing this on your car. I've got both types with me because I know them in the motor factory, so I can just take both types and replace the one that I don't need. What you might have to do is you might have to buy both of them and take one back. It just depends, because you don't want to be stripping your car on your driveway, especially if it's your only car, realising you got the wrong wheel bearing, put everything back just to go and get your new wheel bearing. And you can't tell it really from the chassis number or the number plate. You can't really tell it, unfortunately, so just best off getting both of them and then returning one back. This is an M18 spline, and I'm using a 3/4 inch breaker bar. You'll see just what I have to use to get this off. Now I'm not going to be able to film this. I have filmed it on another car, but you can see, just look at that. That's a normal breaker bar there, and that is the one I'm using to take off this, because these are just redonkulously tight. Without that, you're going to kind of struggle, to be honest. Also, when you're doing something like this, I have showed it on the lift, especially on the lift, you want to be pushing down on the bar. You don't want to be coming from this side and lifting up, because on the lift you can actually lift it off the lift and cause the car to fall over. Same on the jacks and the axle stands, you can still do the same thing. So you always want to be pushing down, and you're pushing the car down, you're not physically lifting the car up, because believe me, with this long length of a bar and with how tight this bolt is, I could easily lift this corner up of the car and potentially cause you lots and lots of problems. Also, what you'll find is people that have tried to take it off and haven't got the right tools completely and utterly chew up that bolt, which then causes all sorts of problems. Another issue is if it's left too long with the wheel bearing on, that heats up and like basically welds itself in there, which causes other issues. So this is why you never let anything go for too long, because you're going to struggle taking off, and it's going to cost you more in the long run than just to repair it straight away. Right, just look how much Loctite is on there, because this is the only thing holding your wheel on. It's not these 5 studs or 4 studs or 6 studs, whatever you've got. It's whatever's holding the wheel bearing on, or just the actual wheel bearing itself. People think if they lose the stud, now don't get me wrong, if you lose your studs your wheel falls off, but if you think you've got all your studs on and your wheel won't fall off, nah, your wheel can still fall off. These can be a bit hard to get off too. Sometimes you have to try and do it. I'm not able to do it on camera, I need 2 hands. Again, when the wheel bearing's gone, these burn onto the shaft, but they can be a bit awkward to take off. I just need 2 hands. Right, these bolts could be a nightmare to get off, but we'll deal with that in a minute. Now look at the wheel bearing. You can see already there's chunks completely missing. All the rust is gone in behind it, look. And if I angle it, look at that. See all the rust jacketing, lifting that up and causing the air gap to be completely different. I've done a video, you can see, look how the rust that's in there, look at that. And it's completely all cracked. The camera's going to show that. It's cracked in basically every single segment. Look, there we go, look. More taken off of it. Every single segment is essentially cracked. I've done a video on how ABS sensors work and how pickups work. I'll link that in the description as well. And just because it's new, I've also shown some special paper or some special magnet paper where you can actually check the new magnet, because again, just because it's new doesn't mean it's good. If the magnet looks good but it's, you know, broken internally, you're not going to see that with your eyes, and it's still going to cause an issue with the ABS sensor. So yeah, that is bad, and you can see why we was getting all the jumping around. ABS sensor is slightly damaged, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. But that was definitely our problem with the ABS sensor, just not knowing where it was and bouncing up and down from like 10 mile an hour to 30 mile an hour, and or from 2 mile an hour to 15 mile an hour, whatever it was. If you want to know what the difference is between the two, one's got a 30 mil hole, the other's got a 32, so it just depends on this shaft. Everything else is the same apart from the diameter of the shaft. Now if I turn this one on its side, you can see, look how flat that ring is, and obviously it's not cracked. When I turn this one, look how beveled the top edge is. You see how that's beveled up and it's beveled round? It's not completely flat. There's a huge difference. So the air gap, which is how it knows how fast it's going, is completely changing on that. What I've now got to do is T30 torques on there. So again, what I'm going to have to do is hit the torque on to make sure it completely goes in, and I'm mostly going to have to use heat on this. Got my gas torch there, and just use some heat and hope for the best. There's no point me showing you taking bolts out, because I'll just be heating the bolts and trying to take them out essentially. Wish me luck. What you can also do is hit these with the hammer, like I was showing before, how to take the actual brake part off. But do be careful. If you damage the torque in there, if you hit the top with the hammer, you can actually kind of push it back in and allow the torque to get in there a little bit better. It gives you that little bit more of a bite, but be careful. If these kind of round and slip, we're kind of in trouble, because you can see just how rusty they are. The chance of me getting these off is going to be kind of hard. Even the cock agrees. So just wish me luck. I've just heated that one up, but I don't know about this one. I'll show you. If I just slightly hit that, look at all the rust come off. Look at that. I don't know, people. Wish me luck. You might not be able to see it, but it's smoking. Keep my hands warm. Melting the ice and keeping my hands warm. Right, I've got two off, which is good. Again, you have to be very careful doing this. Don't do it with the wheel bearing on, because you're just going to burn the wheel bearing or burn the grease out of it. And be careful of the stuff behind. But you see, doing this one-handed really isn't advisable. No, I'm just not going to be able to do it. I've tried to do it on camera, but it's just not going to, I'm going to fuck up myself by doing it. Right, managed to get them all off. This one isn't going to be a problem taking off, because it's just completely rusted away. There we go. That did all the damage to everything essentially. Now you can really see the build up you have around these bolts. This will give you a really good indication. Watch this. Look at that. See that? And that all goes in there and it destroys the threads. And it's one of them things you just don't want to really encounter unless you really have to. So we can see the bearings or the bushings, they look a little bit bad, but just very rusty. Wherever this car was originally was just in kind of a rusty spot. It could have been near the seal, something like that. But what we need to do now is we need to take these off, because you need to take these off to get the new backplate on without taking that off. Make sure you don't mess these up, even though I think on this particular car they are the same top and bottom, but you still want to make sure you don't get them confused. And this one, believe me, make it easier. Oh, the caliper's in the way. It'll make it easier to put the new dust plate on. Right, this job has just completely taken a nosedive. Look at that. Only half it's come out. Look how rusty it was. That has been snapped for a while. And me just obviously just see on the outside just where it's a bit shiny, where it was kind of holding on. And yeah, so I now have to take that off and get a new one, second-hand one, whatever. What a nightmare. What a fucking nightmare. Look at this. Look what I've just got handed me by the customer. Toasty, coffee, crisps, biscuits. But unfortunately I had to tell him that that thing was holding on by the skin of its teeth, and now we're in trouble. Bittersweet. Don't know what I'm going to do yet, because I've rang a few places. They don't seem to be open, and I don't think I can get one today, which is it's now Saturday. Tomorrow's going to be Sunday. He needs his car, so I'm screwed. The bottom one, with a lot of heat, came out nicely, which I'm obviously thankful for. The threads inside there look good. What we can do to make this one a bit easier is, normally I wouldn't do this, but because this is the chance of me to try and get this out is going to be remote. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, to be honest. And even if I did, I don't have a spare one of these anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this up, and I'm going to get the hammer and hit that, and that will essentially like be undoing this. Oh no, would that be tightening it? Oh damn, that'd be tightening it, won't it? I need to go. Oh, I can't do that. I was hoping to knock it round. I might be able to knock it back a little bit, just enough to crack it, and it'd just be easier for me to undo the head of the bolt that way. Yeah, that has to be spun off that way, so it has to go that way. Damn, if it just went that way. Well, you can hit it, you can tighten it and just go backwards and forwards, and hopefully just get that to crack first. I'm going to try that. That was just so awkward for a couple of reasons. One, they're awkward to get off anyway, but two, the only M14 I had was a long reach. I needed this because I was hitting the two trailing arms and I couldn't get it in properly, and you can see how much heat I had to put onto it, but it's off. The bolts are good, and we just got to try and find one now, which is going to be the awkward part, but at least it's off. I can now put all my brakes and stuff back on if I have to. At least get that done, get the wheel bearing on, get the dust plate on, get all that on, and then worry about this. I can't pick that up yet, it's just way too hot. But yeah, you can see just how that had been broken for a while. You can see how rusty that is in there. Yeah, I always, whenever I put anything on them, you always screw these up and down, up and down, up and down, and I just put the spanner on it, it just went straight away. I didn't even give me a chance to do anything with it. Oh, the joys. Also, tell me if you want, I've got a head cam and I've been messing around with it, but I don't know if you want me to wear it and, like, you know, film all this, because I was struggling taking all this off. Would you find that boring? Would you find it interesting? I just don't know, because I kind of think it might be boring just see me heating it up and, you know, kind of struggling with bolts and stuff. But if you say, you know, film it, I'll use my head cam and I'll film as much as I can if it's going to be something that you're going to be interested in. If not, obviously the extra time it's going to take me, there's no point in me doing it. So let me know in the comments down below. Right, what I'm going to do is, I'm struggling to find one, but I'm just going to put the back plate on, put the bearing on, put the disc on. I'm going to put everything I possibly can on, and then, because I can always put the carry on afterwards, I don't need all this off. It's a little bit easier if this is off, but it's not the end of the world, and at least I can put, you know, start putting a few things back together, and then we can hopefully find one and repair and fix the car. His NCT's in a few days, always the way. I can't get any parts for it. He needs it for work, the usual stuff. Right, unfortunately I'm going to have to leave this now. Hopefully I can find the parts. I rang 2 scrapyards that are kind of localish to me, 20-30 miles away, and they don't seem to be open. And I can't go further afield. Hopefully I can get the parts today and then finish off the job tomorrow, which is Sunday. That's the plan, but I really don't know. Right, what an absolute nightmare. It was Saturday when I started this, it's now Wednesday. Scrapyards all closed on a Saturday. Don't ask me why, just stupid. If I was a scrapyard, I'd stay open Saturday and Sunday because a lot of people are working on the car Saturday and Sunday. Anyway, that's just, it is what it is. That's the pin that's completely seized. I've recently found out this car was most of its life in Salt Hill, which is a seaside place, so that's why all the rust. You can see the difference between how rusty this one is and how, you know, rusty this one is. This is just normal rust, this is seaside rust. These two pins are fine. Scrapyards on Monday and Tuesday, because it was raining, even though it's still raining now, they would not take this off for me. I'll come back when it's dry. Like, what the fuck? You're a scrapyard. Anyway, so we finally got it. I'm going to take all these pins out, I'm going to grease them, I'm going to fit everything. No point me showing it, it's just two M14s. And fit it, get it all back together, and see if the ABS is okay in it. Right, look how good that rust protection is. This has been out in the elements for, what, 4 days? Not a bit of rust on it. Right, so the pads are in, carrier's in, it's all been greased up with ceramic grease, it's all been put back together. What you have to be careful of is we need to wind back this piston, but we need to be very, very careful of this rubber. What sometimes happens is, if I twist that, I can't do it one hand. I'm just going to twist that, I'm going to show you what happens with the rubber. Now this one isn't doing it too bad, but you can, this rubber can crinkle and basically crack as you're twisting it, because it's not slipping on the actual piston itself. This one is, but anyway, just be careful. If you're unsure, just get a pick and you can just pick that, put a bit of lube in there and just allow it to spin, because it will save you cracking that. If you rip that, you're in trouble. Right, it's all back on. I pumped the brakes, and you need to be able to turn this by hand after you pump the brakes, so you know nothing's locked up, everything's kind of okay. There'll be a bit of a drag on it, don't worry about that, but you need to make sure, bloody lorry coming past, you need to make sure that it actually turns. So that's all been put back together, we can bang on the wheel. Let's see if we was correct with the ABS. The ABS sensor is a little bit damaged, let's hope we've got away with that. Again, the back plate damaged the ABS sensor as well as the magnet pickup for it, but that's obviously got damaged a lot more. The rust jacketing and the back plate, or the splash guard, actually did the damage to everything. And what did that was the fact that it was at a seaside for most of its life, the salt air. Right, all them lights are flashing because I'm in the actual diagnostic mode of the car, so it's just essentially telling me, so don't worry about that if you've got your scan tool plugged in and the lights are flashing. That's kind of normal. Sometimes it will say on the radio diag, but here we go. So we got the 3 sensors up, the 4th sensor is up, but I can't fit it all in the same screen, but we're not worried about that. We just want to see if these all go up at the same and they look identical. I'm driving straight and I'm on his driveway, and I'm just gonna go just forward a little bit. Look at that. Boom, people, exactly the same, absolutely perfect. So there we go. This problem as regards the ABS is now fixed. We diagnosed it right. That's why it's very important to do live data, because a lot of people do just, oh, I'm just going to go and get an ABS sensor. You could put 100 ABS sensors in this and it's not going to solve the problem. The problem was the wheel bearing. Wheel bearing wasn't gone. Wheel bearing was fine as a wheel bearing, but the magnet pickup behind it was all full of rust and there was bits missing off it, causing that sensor to jump around crazy. Boom, sorted. Right, obviously when you've done a job like this, you need to put it through all the gears. Sometimes on some cars, when you replace an ABS sensor or fix the issue, the light will automatically go out. Some you have to drive over 30 miles an hour and some you have to physically reset. But you always need to take it for a drive and turn it left to right, because that's when the car knows that everything is good. So in other words, I'm going through all the gears, want to make sure the light doesn't come back on, because again, normally it can come on after 30 miles an hour. Again, it all depends on the car and it depends on your issue. Like if you've got a complete dead sensor, it'll come on straight away, or if you've got a short or something like that. But anyway, the reason why it won't come on in ours straight away is because our ABS sensor is working. It's just when we start driving, the magnet pickup goes all over the shop. So take it for a drive, turn it left to right, make sure the light doesn't come on, and then you are good to go, because it can come on when you turn left or right, when the different speed wheels, or when the different wheels read different speeds because you're turning. So always double check it. But in this case, we are good to go. We've reprogrammed everything, the steering angle sensor and everything. I'll do a separate video on that. I will also do a separate video. We've got to do a CV joint on this. I'll do a separate video on that. The reason why I do separate videos, it's just easier to find separate videos because I can't put ABS problem, CV joints, you know, steering angle sensor. It's just going to be very confusing, and people that are looking for a steering angle sensor are not going to be looking for a CV joint, and vice versa. So we are good to go. So as always, please like, share, comment and subscribe. Don't forget, links up here, links down there, but most importantly, don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one. Sorted.